On today's episode, we are discussing everything Miami Dolphins in the 2025 NFL Draft with one of the best draft analysts in the industry, Jordan Reid of ESPN. I'm excited to get into this one, and I hope you are too. So do me the favor, smash the like button, subscribe if you are new, and let's get into this one.
Touchdown! You have got to be kidding me. Jalen Waddle has a Dolphin touchdown. And he will score! Field on the near side, that open, touchdown! The run from Tua Tagovailoa. Touchdown! He's going deep. He's got it for a touchdown. He's in. Touchdown! Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. Let's go!
What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It is your boy Reason. We are back here for another one, and I am joined by a very special guest today. I want to shout out Ryan Roberts for hooking this up because I've been bugging him for a few years to hook this up. Shout out to Jordan Reid. Thank you for joining the show, sir.
Yeah, no problem. It's a pleasure being here and always excited to talk about Dolphins.
Hey, man, and I'm always excited to hear what you got to say about the draft. So let's hop right into it. Calais Campbell left a few weeks ago. Javon Holland, he signed elsewhere. You actually had Miami taking Xavier Watts at 48 in your mock at the beginning of March. Kendall Fuller was let go, while Cam Smith hasn't really worked out so far. How do you see the Miami Dolphins filling their pressing needs, Jordan, with 10 picks in this draft? And hey, man, I don't know what crystal ball you got over there, but you had them taking Will Campbell in your latest mock too. Did you expect Teron Armstead to retire?
That has been rumored for a while now, and he's kind of played on the fence a little bit as far as if he was going to retire, if he was going to come back over the past few years. So he finally did it this year. They seem to have a succession plan in place. That's why he drafted Patrick Paul in last year's draft. So the good thing for Miami is that they already have a visible plan in place as far as how to replace him. But I still think they need reinforcements along the offensive line. Then also, you already touched on safety and then defensive line. I would say those are the three weak points right now on the roster. And I will be shocked if they don't try to address all three of those spots very early.
Listen, Jordan, this channel in the Dolphins YouTube community is one of the bigger ones when it comes to the draft. I do big boards. I do in-depth evaluations, break down all 22 and stuff. I got to ask you about this because you mentioned defensive line. I'm a huge Kenny Grant guy. I think the ceiling on him, I think he could be one of the best guys. And I wanted to get your opinion on him. Is 13 too rich for you? And I see some people trying to label him as right now as like a 2-down nose, but we've seen him, line up at the 3, at 4, et cetera, et cetera. Do you think that's kind of not being fair to the talent he has, projecting him as just a 2-down nose when it's obvious because of his athleticism and his disruptiveness as a pocket? That he can be much more than a 2-down nose?
I always laugh when somebody say somebody's picked too early, just because everybody's board is going to be different. So, and you see this a lot, not just with the Dolphins, but with other teams as well, is quote unquote a reach, but it may not be a reach on their board. They may have Kenneth Grant inside of their top 15 players in the entire draft. So if they do select him at 13, it wouldn't be a reach for them. It would only be a reach in certain people's minds. But I definitely think he's worthy of the 13th overall pick, especially with the weaknesses that they have along the defensive front. And they need somebody consistently that can stop the run. And that's what we know Kenneth Grant is going to be able to do from day one. Now, if you're betting on the upside with him, I think he's one of the more talented defensive linemen overall in this year's draft class. And you can just turn on the tape of him against Ohio State. He was unblockable in that game. So you're betting on the upside with Kenneth Grant as a pass rusher, but we know from day one right away, he's going to be a plug and play guy as far as being able to stop the run.
Yeah. Now, sticking with the defense here, Does Will Johnson make it to 13? Because he was a guy on this channel in October, November. I was like, oh my God, I know it's a pipe dream, but please, Will, please fall to 13 because I think he's a top 5 player in this draft. I think we're talking like Patrick Surtain type of level of talent here. If everything goes right and he stays healthy, is there a chance he makes it to 13? And do you think there's a world where the Dolphins, after losing Kendall Fuller, and maybe they start shifting Jalen Ramsey to more of a safety role a la Charles Woodson, that they could make that investment in a player like Will Johnson if he's there?
I think it's certainly a possibility. He has a big day coming up here next week. He's going to do his private workouts for teams next Monday. So we'll be able to get some numbers on him as far as testing wise, but we really haven't seen him really since the beginning portions of the season. He battled a lot of injuries this past season, and then he hasn't done anything throughout the pre-draft process, didn't participate at the combine, and then didn't do anything at the pro day either. So he's still kind of a wild card in this year's class, in my honest opinion. Now, if we're just stacking the talent, I think he's a top 10 talent without question in this year's class, but he just hasn't had a really good pre-draft process because he hasn't participated in anything. So it's kind of hard to get a feel exactly where teams have him ranked. But if we're just going based off of ability, I mean, he's my number 5 overall player in the draft. I'm still a huge believer as far as what he can be on the next level and what we have seen from him during his college career. We know he's a bigger corner at 6'2", 200 pounds. He can take the ball away. And then also he has really good hips as well. The big question with Will is just how fast is he? We just want to get a time number on him. If he runs fast, I definitely think that's going to help him. But if he running mid to high 4.5s, that's something that you go back to the tape and just find out exactly, as far as his weak points with his speed. But I think he's going to be a zone corner on the next level. I think that's going to be the best scheme that really suits him the best, just because he's at his best when he can keep his back to the sideline and really react to the points that the quarterbacks are throwing the ball. So is he worthy of 13? Absolutely. Is he going to be there? That's still yet to be seen. But I don't think we're really going to know that until draft day. But if he's there for the Dolphins at 13, I definitely think you turn in the card very quickly.
You know what? Like, I wasn't really worried about the combine and his pro day. I was hoping he didn't have private workouts because I go back to that Texas game, that play he made where he came across the field. I don't know if you remember that play in the Texas game where he came across the field. I'm like, the closing speed and the range is crazy. Like 4.4 out, like mid 4.4s at worst is what I saw there. And man, the instincts, like that pick 6 against Fresno, was it Fresno on the screen, right? Like he teleported there. It was crazy. Another guy who I think is getting lost in the mix a little, Jordan, is Siobhan Revel Jr. That 2023 tape, I don't care what anyone says, I thought it was just so elite. And I think people have forgot about him a little bit. I thought he would have blown up the combine if he would have probably tested. Do you think he's going to be a day 3 steal? And if a day 2 steal, I apologize. And if the Dolphins are sitting there at 48 and he's somehow sitting there, is that someone you'd run up if you didn't take corner in the first round and run the card up to the podium for?
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate we haven't been able to see Savone really do anything during the pre-draft process because of the torn ACL. And he was off to a career best year, had 2 interceptions, which was his career high. Didn't have a lot of ball production coming into the season. So that was the one big question mark Scouts really wanted to see him improve upon. But you turn on the film, he's a super athletic corner. He's really rangy, has outstanding ball skills as well. I think he's a scheme versatile player as well. He can play a man, he can play zone. He has really good instincts. But it's just a change of direction skills. He has that easy athleticism that I love to say. The fluidity in his hips is really good as well. So I don't think he's going to be there at 48. Honestly, I would really be surprised by that, especially if you're trusting the tape. And he's what I like to call an ascending prospect, somebody that really was trending upward. But if there was one reason why he would still be there, it would be because of the ACL and teams not wanting to take a chance on the medicals. So similar to Will Johnson, we really won't know until draft day. But if I had to guess today, I don't think he's going to be there in 48. At 40, I think he probably goes late first or early second round.
Man, I mean, how many of your top 20 have completed RAS scores, There's just so many great talent that didn't even get to, put those numbers out there so we can get a relative athletic score. Do you see Walter Nolan or Mike Green falling out of the first round?
I mean, it's certainly possible, just because of, the things that they have in their background. It's well documented what happened with Green going back to his time at Virginia. And then he basically reinvented himself at Marshall, had a really good career there, led the country in sacks last season. And then with Walter Nolan, I know there's a lot of rumored stuff that's going on with him, but scouts that I talked to, I haven't heard anything as far as like from a legal standpoint, as far as things that have happened with him. But other than that, I haven't heard anything as far as that are red flag worthy with Walter Nolan. I'm still a big believer in his ability. I'm much higher than consensus on him. He's actually my number 12 ranked player on my big board. So I'm a huge fan of Walter Nolan. And if he doesn't go in the first round, then we'll know there is some character stuff that's going on in the background with him. But it wouldn't surprise me if he goes as high as the 49ers at number 11 overall. I think that's a fit that makes a ton of sense. So he may not even be on the board for the Dolphins in the mid part of the first round. But, if he's there at 48, of course, I think he runs to the podium just because I think he's a first round worthy talent. But we know whether it's injury or red flags or background things that's going on with them, if either one of those guys don't go in the first round, because both are worthy of a first round pick.
I love how you mentioned the 49ers because, if Will Johnson or the guy you had following us to the mock, Will Campbell slip, that's the team I'm worried about taking one of those guys if they fall because they lost Javarius Ward. They could use more help. I mean, they lost Aaron Banks. They could use more help along the offensive line. So they're a team I really worry about if one of those guys starts slipping. But let's move back to the offense for a sec. Kind of a twofold question. Your thoughts on what you would do if you're the Miami Dolphins with Tua Tagovailoa and everything he's had going on from an injury standpoint. And then do you see this? They've added Zach Wilson. They don't have a QB3. They obviously have a pick at 98, and then they have 4 picks between 116 and 155. Do you see that as a range they could be looking for that QB3, that developmental guy to add to the room? And who are some guys you think might be around that area?
Well, I mean, if I'm Chris Greer, you have to protect your investment, especially you've already shown that you're going all in on Tua. You gave him the contract extension. So now we have to figure out a way to protect him, build a wall in front of him. And we know, they've struggled at that guard spot. They have some question marks as far as what Patrick Paul is going to be now as a long-term starter. So tackle is a question mark as well. But I'm just figuring out a way to create as much competition as possible in the offensive line room. Just because we both know that Tua has struggled with the injury concerns, whether it's concussions or, other injuries that he's been banged up with. So with me already going all in with the contract extension for Tua, I have to figure out a way to protect him, giving him as many offensive linemen as possible. So, I mean, if Will Campbell is there, of course, you take him. Somebody like a Josh Simmons, who I like quite a bit. If he's there at 13, I think you take him as well. I don't think Mimbu is going to be there from Missouri. I would be really surprised if he was there. He'd be another guy that you turn the card in for as well. Trading back could be a possibility for Miami as well, especially if you don't feel comfortable outside of Mimbu and Campbell taking one of those guys early. I think the depth of this offensive tackle class is more so in the mid to the late first round. So if you feel comfortable taking Simmons late first round or somebody like a Josh Connolly Jr. out of Oregon, I think that would be a good option for them as well. But I would build a wall in front of Tua. I think you never want to pigeonhole yourself into one position. But if I was doing that on draft day, it would be offensive line for me. And then the second part of your question, some late round guys, one that I think they'll be heavily interested in is Dylan Gabriel out of Oregon. He's been described as Diet Tua from a lot of people inside of the league. Somebody that I think fits really well in McDaniel's scheme as far as flooding the middle of the field, a lot of RPOs, a lot of quick game as well. And of course, him being a left-hand quarterback as well, you're always going to translate that to, you never want to say if Tua gets hurt in the future, but somebody you don't have to change the entirety of the complexity of your playbook for. I definitely think Dylan Gabriel could be somebody that you take a shot on in the 5th or the 7th round. I know they don't have a 6th round pick right now. So if you feel comfortable taking them in the 5th round, I definitely think you entertain taking him there. But if he's there in the 7th round with one of those picks that you have later on, he definitely could be a possibility.
Okay, so I got a couple things off of your answer there. Number one, we'll start with this. I agree with you at the offensive line 110%. If they don't go offensive line in that first round, 2 guys I've liked for quite some time are Jonas Savannah, and I want Donovan Jackson to be there, but I don't think he's going to be there because teams are going to see that left tackle flexibility. What are your thoughts on those 2 players and their potential fits in Miami if they're on the board and somehow Miami can get their hands on either one of those guys and stick them in the interior?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Donovan Jackson actually sneaks into the first round. Like that would not be surprising at all, especially when you consider, like you mentioned, the flexibility that he showed this year. That's always going to be a feather in the cap of an offensive lineman when they have that versatility. When they play guard and tackle, I even think he could play center as well.
Mm,
He just has that versatility to play all 5 spots, and that was one of the biggest surprises about him when Simmons actually went down in the Oregon game. They kicked him out to offensive tackle and he didn't miss a beat outside
yeah.
of the Penn State game going against Abdul Carter, who he destroyed everybody this year. But I mean, going against Abdul Carter in your first game as an offensive tackle, that's not going to go well for anybody. But after that game, he really settled in. So I would be surprised if he was there. Savanea, I definitely think is a more realistic target, but you're probably going to have to take him at 48. I don't think he gets outside of that second or early third round, but the flexibility that he had as well, he's played right guard, he's played right tackle as well. Very strong interior blocker as well. So if you're looking for somebody that can translate really well, I think his scheme versatile. He can play in his own scheme. He also has the strength to be a puller in a man gap power scheme as well. I mean, I think he'd be a home run at 48 if he's there, honestly, if you don't address offensive line in the first round. But they could double up. Like, I wouldn't be mad if Miami doubled up along the offensive line in the first 2 rounds either.
That loud sound you would hear at draft night would be an applause across Dolphins Nation for the Max actually doing that. Trust me. And then I wanted to say, first of all, that Donovan Jackson tape from 2023 against Derek Harmon, absolutely elite. I don't know if people forgot about that, but where do you see guys like Quinn Ewers and a guy who I think could operate this offense really well, Kyle McCord? Where do you see those guys going?
So McCord is actually my 5th ranked quarterback in this year's class. I'm pretty much higher on than a consensus with McCord. I was really impressed with basically how he was able to reinvent himself with how bad it ended at Ohio State and then how well he played at Syracuse. So that shows me that he has a short-term memory of how he's able to go into a new place, become a team captain and a leader, essentially only being there, 6 to 8 months. So credit to him. I thought he played phenomenal last season during his one and only season at Syracuse. I have him in the 4th round right now, but it wouldn't surprise me if he ends up going in the 3rd round. That wouldn't be a surprise at all. And then with Ewers, we were talking about him a lot during his pro day, and the Dolphins were actually one team that I thought he fit really well on, along with the Rams as well. Those are 2 teams that I thought he fit really well on, just because with Ewers, he has to be in a scheme that really utilizes the short to intermediate areas of the field, and is well documented that McDaniel really likes to utilize those areas of the field and also incorporate a lot of RPOs as well, just because when you ask him to throw the ball down the field, that's really challenging for him, and he was really inconsistent over his career in that area. But if you allow him to play off of play action, use those token fakes and RPO, and really put those defenders in conflict, that's really when he's at his best. So I think the 4th or the 5th round is probably where you ultimately end up having to take him. But he's another that you could use one of those 5th round picks on to be, your QB2 or your QB3. And I think he would challenge Zach Wilson for that backup spot.
I agree. I like it. Now, I've heard you say the guys you get at 15 are the same caliber of guy you're going to get at pick number 60. Does that give Miami fans hope for a stud at 13 because it's before that cutoff, and some quarterbacks will maybe be pushed up, as well as number 48 because it's in that range of second-tier talent too? Because a lot of Dolphin fans, Jordan, with the pressure on Greer, with the pressure on McDaniel, with us not meeting expectations last year and the voids that are stacking up, we're looking at, we need you to hit at 13. We need you to hit at 48. We need 98 to be a contributor. And we need you to find a few contributors from 116 to 155. So because of your quote, 15 to 60, same calibers of player, should that give Miami fans hope that they're going to get 2 impact players potentially at 13 and 48?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I said if I was a GM in this year's draft, I would be looking to trade back if I had a pick inside of the top 15, just because I want as many dart throws as possible. And in a draft like this, I think you're looking to stack the depth on your roster. I don't think there's a whole bunch of marquee starters that's going to come in and be superstars like we saw in last year's draft. Last year's draft, had dudes on top of dudes inside of the top 15. This year's draft is a little bit different. I only have 3 blue chip guys in this year's class. That's Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, and Mason Graham. But outside of that, I think, as you mentioned, the same player you pick at 15 is going to be the same caliber of player that you get at 60. So if I'm Miami, I'm looking to trade back. And then I'm also hoping that as many quarterbacks go inside of those top 13 picks, whether it's Shedeur Sanders and also Jackson Dart, just because that's going to push some more guys down the board for me. And then, as I mentioned earlier, really the depth of this year's offensive tackle class is really in that 15 to 40 range, in my opinion. That's where you're getting guys like, Kelvin Banks Jr. We still haven't mentioned him at all. Josh Connerly Jr. We also mentioned Josh Simmons as well. And there's some other names. Ariante Ursary, I think, is going to go in that range as well. So Minnesota. If you're Miami, I think you're looking potentially to trade back. But if not, if you stick and pick at 13, you could take an offensive tackle there, or you could take a defensive lineman, as we mentioned. But, defensive lineman is loaded as well.
Yeah,
so
it is.
Like I said, like the same caliber of player you get at 13 is probably going to be the same at 48 as well.
Final question here. Does Jackson Dart go in the top 10, and does Shedeur slide outside of the top 10?
I don't think Dart goes inside of the top 10, but I think somebody comes and gets him at the back end of the first round. If I had to guess, whether it's the Giants or the Browns or whoever, somebody traded back up into the back end of the first round to get him. And if Shedeur doesn't go to the Browns or the Giants at 2 or 3, I think it gets really interesting. Now you're looking at the Saints at 9. If the Saints pass on him at 9, I think that's where it gets really, really interesting. But I think somebody ultimately similar to Dart trades up to get him, whether it's at 15 with the Falcons, with them only having a limited draft capital, and then Denver at 20 is another area where I would have circled for a team to trade up to get a quarterback as well, just because Pittsburgh has that 21st pick. So trying to leapfrog them to get that quarterback that potentially is sliding. So if I had to guess, I still think Shedeur goes inside of the top 10, but if the Saints don't take him at 9, I think things get really, really interesting as far as where he could go.
Hey, I appreciate you joining me, Jordan. Go ahead, plug anything you got coming up, and if you want, throw a great deep sleeper for Dolphin fans to look into and research in this draft.
Yeah, so you can find my work on ESPN Plus, ESPN.com. I actually have my final 7-round mock draft coming out April 21st. So going through that right now. Hopefully all you guys agree with my picks for the Dolphins. I'm not going to spoil it. There may be some surprises in there for you guys. Again, that's April 21st. I'm coming out with my final mock draft. It'll be a 7-rounder. One deep sleeper, and I'll just give you a safety. We didn't talk about safety a whole bunch. So one name that I'll give you, his name is R.J. Mickens from Clemson. He'll probably go, I would say, in the 6th round. I have a 5th round grade on him. I'm a little bit higher than consensus, but I think he's probably going to end up going in the 6th round. Tested really well, has really good ball production as well. Very versatile. He can play strong safety. He can play free safety as well. He's that versatile chess piece on the back end that I think could be really scheme versatile as well. So R.J. Mickens out of Clemson, if you're looking for a late round safety that Miami could be intrigued with, he definitely is one.
It's funny. I have my safety big board coming out this week, and he's on that list too. And I was, watching him a little bit, and man, I agree with you. I saw a guy could play in the box, in the slot, on the perch. I was really impressed, and he offers some ball production too. I like in this game too. So I like that name. Hey, Jordan, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you for taking some time out of your day. I really do. And honestly, I hope we can make this an annual thing and do it again. It was great to talk with someone so knowledgeable and just one of the best in the industry. So thank you very much, sir.
Absolutely. I appreciate you for having me on. And absolutely, we can make this a yearly thing. Just let me know.
I love it. Thank you very much, Jordan. So that was Jordan Reid from ESPN. Absolutely fantastic. I mean, there's just not many better in the industry than him. Go check him out. He just does some of the best work there is. There's nothing else to say. Big fan of him. I've been following him since the Draft Network. I can't say enough great things about him. So once again, shout out to Jordan Reid for joining the show, and shout out to each and every one of you for taking some time out of your day. I know this was an early morning show, a little bit of a short one for your coffee break, but I did hope you learned something, and I hope you got some valuable insight. And like I said, we're going to be dropping our safety big board this week, Wednesday. Okay, we are going to be bringing the starting lineup on Wednesday. Me and Dougley will be live here on Wednesday at 7 p.m. All right. Obviously, I'll be back with Neil, and we'll have the usual shows going on as well. Please do me the favor. Just smash that like button. Let's get this out into the algorithm. Let's show everyone what Jordan Reid had to say and the great things he had to say about the Dolphins and the NFL draft. Wish we had some more time, but this is what happens, right? So I appreciate all of y'all for coming through. Smash that like button. As always, fins up all day, every day. And I will catch each and every one of you on the next one. Take it easy, everyone. Appreciate y'all. Love all y'all.